Hello you guys. So the Magnus Carlsen and Vasyl Ivanchuk has a whole lot of history. The last time they played classical games against each other was in 2013 candidate in which Vasyl Ivanchuk has an upper hand with 1.5 and Magnus only getting a half point. So let's just straightly dive into this historical game. Here Magnus Carlsen has a white piece and he opens the game with d4. We have d5 and now we have a very flexible knight to f3. It is very flexible because depending on the black play, white has a variety of the variation here. Let's say if they play knight to f6 here, you can play bishop to f4 to have a London system here, or even you can play c4 here to have a queen's gambit decline. So eventually this actually happens in the game here. We have e6 here and Magnus plays c4 here, and now we have knight to f6. So we have a queen's gambit decline on the board here, and Magnus chooses a Catalan structure with g3 here. Now here Ivanchuk plays a very well-known bishop to b4 check here, and there's a saying in chess that don't give an unnecessary check here. But this time this b4 check doesn't cost black too much here. Let's say if the white played knight to c3 here, actually knight belongs to d2 here. Black can just drop back here. And now with knight to c3, let's say I will play here. Now with knight to c3, it has a very limited scope here. So actually it belongs to d2 here. So after bishop to b4 check here, we have bishop to d2 here, and Ivanchuk just drop back with bishop to e7. Now we have bishop to g2 here, and then Vasyl just strengthening the center with c6 here, and now we have a Magnus classic queen to c2, which he loves the most and played the most. Check, he plays a developing move knight b to d7 here, and now Magnus bishop, which is sitting on d2 and doing nothing, goes to a f4 square via bishop to f4, and now he has a good scope here. So now we have a castle here, and Magnus goes for the alpha 0 h4 here. So now Ivanchuk releases the central tension via d takes c4 here, and now we have queen takes c4, and now we have knight to d5 here attacking the bishop here, and bishop goes to g5 here. So bishop was sitting on d2, goes to f4, and now to g5 here. So this is a classic Magnus stuff here. And now we have a6 here. So Vasyl wants to exchange the bishop on his own terms. So now we have bishop takes on e7, now we have queen takes on e7, and now we have e4. And knight goes to b6 here, and now we have queen to c3. And here Vasyl Ivanchuk plays a very good move, e5 here. So striking at the white center here, and now we have castles here. And now we have e takes d4, and now we have queen takes d4. And now we have knight to c5. So now this pawn is attacked twice here, and now what you will play here? Now if you try to defend the pawn via rook to e1 here, black can actually gain a lead in development after rook to d8 here. Let's say queen goes to c3 here, and now bishop to g4. And black has a good lead in development. So same goes for if you try to play knight to c3 here. So here Magnus plays a brilliant move, rook to c1 here. And now if you try to take the pawn with queen here, you're just losing the knight here. And secondly, if you try, let's say knight takes e4 here, then we have rook to e1 here. And let's say if you try to protect it with f5 here, just knight to c3, and white can actually have a good play here. So here Vasyl Ivanchuk doesn't like all of this here, and then he plays knight to a6 here. And now we have knight b to d2 here, and now we have bishop to g4. So everybody pieces are out, and now we have bishop to f1. So this bishop will join the attack to the black king here. And now we have rook a to d8 here. And now we have queen to e3 defending it. And now we have knight to c7. So Ivanchuk wants a knight on the battered square here, and now we have a4 here. So black is expecting a5 here to attack the knight here. So we have knight back to c8 here, and now we have a5 here. And now we have bishop takes on f3, now we have knight takes on f3, and as black is expecting a6 here, so a6 himself. And now Magnus played rook to a4. So Magnus has a sexy rook on the 4th rank here, and now we have rook f to e8 here, and the way Magnus just developed his bishop is just out of this world. First Magnus plays e5 here along with the knight to d5 here, and after knight to d5 here, this plays queen to b3, and now we have knight to a7 here. Magnus plays bishop to d3. So bishop goes to g2 to f1 to d3 here, and Magnus' position is just marvelous here. This is only can be done by Magnus Carlsen. So now we have knight to b5 here, and Magnus bishop goes to b1 here. So g2 to f1 to d3 to b1 here. So classic Magnus stuff. And now we have h5 here. So in near future g4 and h5 can be a threat here. So he is shutting all of this here. And now we have rook to e1 here. And now we have knight d to c7 here. And the way Magnus just weaken the king side of the black here is just marvelous here. First he plays queen to c2 here. And here he is forcing Ivanchuk to play g6 here. And now we have bishop to e2 here. So the threat is to play queen takes g6 here. And now we have king to g7 unpinning the pawn here. And now we have knight to g5. And now we have rook to f8. And now we have e6 here. So Magnus want to blast open the center here, and now we have f6 here, and Magnus plays bishop to b1. And this knight is actually untouchable here, because if you try to play f takes g4 here, then queen takes g6 check here, and king goes to h8 here, and now we have queen takes h5 check. You can't block with the queen here because knight is protecting it. It will be a checkmate here. So it will go to g8 here, and now we'll play queen to g7 check, and the only move queen to g7. And now we have e7, and you are just completely doomed here. So that's why after bishop to b1 he didn't take it in place f5 here. And now we have queen to c1, and now we have rook to d5 here, and now we have bishop to a2 attacking the rook here, and now we have rook to c5 attacking the queen, and now we have queen to e3. So now we have knight to d5, and now we have queen to d2. And now we have knight to f6, and now we'll play b4 here, and now rook goes to c3 here, and now Magnus is won a pawn by bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5, and queen takes d5. And now we have f4 here to try to play on the king side here, and now we have g takes on f4 here. The problem is you can't just take the rook here because of the check here. Because if you just try to take the pawn here, just queen to e5 check, you can't block with the queen here, because you block here, just queen takes here. If you take the rook or king, doesn't matter, just this pawn is promoting here. And secondly, if you just try to play with the rook here, just knight back to e4 here, and you are just going to lose an exchange here. So that's why Chucky played rook to f5 here, and now we have queen to e4 here. And after queen to e4, just Vasyl Ivanchuk had enough and just resigned the game. So this was a brilliant game played after 10 years of the gap here. So if you like the video, do like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for the more updates.